You know, I used to make fun of my aunt. When she invites us to her house, us as a family, you have to place your, like, bagel order, like, weeks in advance. And then I remember my mom was disconsolate because my cousin Blake, I love you, but you it up for my mom that year. I had to hear about it the whole way home. Why'd you eat Mom's pumpernickel? It was your mom who said place the order, and he ate the pumpernickel. Thanks, Dad. I love you, but thank you. But you, but thank you.
We traveled all over the country on this season of Food Groups, but now that we're back home in New York City, we've got a confession to make. See, like all New Yorkers, natives, transplants, whatever, we love bagels. We love them so much, in fact, that we did an episode about them last season. But honestly, we didn't quite go deep enough. We didn't capture the essence of this city's bagel identity. So we're calling it a do-over. Food Groups, New York City Bagels, Take 2, Schmear we go. I think it works, right? People get it. It's funny. No? New York didn't invent bagels. Most scholars agree they arrived here thanks to Eastern European immigrants around the turn of the 20th century. So why are they such a defining part of New York City's food life? To kick off our bigger, better New York City bagel tour, we met with Ben Wagenberg, a native New Yorker who's made him a defining part of his life as a certified bagel tour guide.
I was born right near here on 16th Street. I grew up in Stuyvesant Town, so it just turns out that I stayed here in Manhattan. I run Ben's Bagel Tours, been doing it for about 4 or 5 years, and I called it Ben's Bagel Tours basically because 1, it gets a smile on your face, 2, it's an iconic symbol of New York, and 3, everybody who starts one of my tours gets a fresh bagel.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Excellent.
This is from Tompkins Square Bagel, which is right up the block, and it's one of the better bagels that you find in New York.
Tell me, let's talk a little bit about bagel history here in New York.
It really came when you had the immigration of Eastern European Jews, especially those from Poland. They had bagels and they were easy to make. It's a way for people to make business. When it became more and more commercialized, yes, you did have a union. There was the Bagel Bakers Union. What killed them all, so to speak, was when Murray Lender invented his process to freeze bagels. And it then became easier for people to buy. It became more generic. One thing that's also part of the bagel tradition is smoked salmon. Lox.
Do you know why or when exactly the lox became a part of the bagel tradition?
Well, that's one time where, after Yom Kippur, after fasting 24 hours, that's true. A lot of people would eat that, or people would eat that in the morning, or especially like on a Saturday or Sunday morning. And then, when the food like the bagel became more specialized, so did smoked salmon.
Yeah.
It became more, not just for a small group of people, it became more accepted and more desired.
Mm-hmm. Is there anywhere in New York that does it still?
Oh, absolutely. If you want to see how they actually make smoked fish, and you want to go to Acme Smoked Fish.
People have been smoking fish for, well, as long as they had fire and salt, really. At Acme Smoked Fish, though, they've been doing it for over 100 years. We headed across the Williamsburg Bridge to meet Adam Kaslau, co-CEO and 4th-generation owner, for a look at what makes Lox such a beloved New York bagel topper.
Nova, lox, trout, sable, herring, kippered salmon, pickled lox, jerky, poke, you name it. Oh my gosh, whitefish. How could I forget about whitefish? My family started in the smoked fish business about over 100 years ago. My great-grandfather, Harry Brownstein, he had a horse-drawn wagon that he would take around to smokehouses throughout Brooklyn. He would bring smoked fish to different appetizing shops. His dream was to open up his own smokehouse called Acme. The most common smoked salmon is cold smoked salmon, otherwise known as Nova or Lox, or I'm sure there's some other bubby names that exist in there. And You can either wet cure or dry cure fish. It's then brined for several days, depending on the size of fish, then put into the oven for smoking. We use a fruitwood wood chip blend. That plate will burn those chips, and the smoke is injected into that oven. After that, the fish is packaged and shipped to your local bagel store or deli for fine consumption.
When I mention it to my friends who aren't from New York, they're kind of, well, that sounds a little weird, man. Why do you think that lox and bagels and lox and schmear have become more of a New York thing?
I think in the same way that the deli business, a pastrami sandwich maybe was once a Jewish icon. Bagels have the same egalitarian notion to them. What would New York be without a hot dog cart? And I think the same can be true about bagels and lox. I don't know that I'm necessarily saving the world by making smoked fish, but I certainly hope we're bringing a little bit of joy, because food is what fuels this city, besides coffee, I guess.
And anxiety.
And anxiety, right.
Do you have a favorite New York bagel? How do New Yorkers decide on what their favorite bagel shop is?
I grew up with a place called Essa Bagel, but when people ask me on my tours, where is the best bagel? I will tell them I won't answer the question, because every New Yorker has their own favorite bagel. A lot of times it's ones in the neighborhood, whether it's because it's just nearby or you appreciate the taste.
We're in Brooklyn, New York. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I've been a Jew for about 43 years, and I've eaten bagels for nearly that entire time, as long as I've had teeth. And even maybe before, I might have gummed a few. Just sort of lovingly gnawed, but in a very Semitic way.
If he's not in Brooklyn, his hometown, Adam Richman could be pretty much anywhere. The culinary traveler, author, and TV host is known best for his shows like Secret Eats and Man vs. Food that have him eating all over the world, but when he's not filming, he still calls Brooklyn home.
I grew up in kind of the Gravesend area of Brooklyn, Homecrest between T and U. Moved to Canarsie, to the Starrett City Project with my mom, and then now I live not far from here. Growing up, I have vivid memories of like eating bagels and watching like ball games with my dad, or they used to show kung fu movies in New York on the weekends, Three Stooges, and Yoo-Hoo and bagels, man. I don't know why. There's something about like seeing like the knots and seeing the actual twisted dough and seeing like that kind of craftsmanship. So this is tofu scallion whitefish, onion and tomato on a toasted everything. Good for what ails you. So here, I'll toast with you on this.
Cheers, man.
Cheers to you.
Yeah, the whitefish is like almost smoky. They have like a really nice,
Not at all.
fishy. Do you have early memories of this?
I do indeed. I remember being a little kid, one of my first errands was going to get the bagels for a Sunday morning or Saturday morning, and my dad gave me a list and he wrote out the order, and it was not terribly far from my house, so it was like one of those errands that as a parent he could feel like safe sending me on. But for me as a kid, it was one of the first times like I had my list, I had my cash. It was one of those great feelings of responsibility, and they smelled so good, and they were my dad and I both knew this place baked their own. And they would be warm, and you could kind of like feel them kind of give in the bag and kind of crunch in the bag. And then you have this ice cold bag of lox spread and whitefish salad, and being able to ring the bell and like everyone's excited, smells good, when you're all there. And Dad, always got the sharp serrated knife to cut them all, and it's almost that big sort of family smorgasbord thing. This was my stepmom's combo. Lox spread, tomato, onion on toasted sesame. After you break your fast on Yom Kippur, traditionally it's a kind of dairy meal, and for Jews, dairy includes fish. Go figure. I've always felt that food, any given dish, kind of exists in a continuum. When you reinterpret that dish, it becomes part of a continuum and becomes part of your story. People don't realize the history of the bagel and how it encompasses so many countries, and it encompasses such a remarkable story in how it got here. At some point, it stops becoming like the Jewish food as opposed to, it's what New York eats in the morning. The bagel is as much a part of New York as your Metro card, man.
Maybe that's why New Yorkers identify so deeply with bagels. Not because they were invented here, which they weren't, and not because they're delicious, which they are, but because in a constantly changing city of 8.5 million strangers you can't trust, it's nice to be able to trust the bagel. It's how New York eats breakfast. Sort of like.
That is your bacon, egg, and cheese, salt, pepper, ketchup, New York style.
The bagel is just a classic and sort of beautiful in its simplicity, like the bacon, egg, and cheese. You can get it at diners, you can get it at a fancy restaurant, but like to me, buttered Kaiser roll, runny egg, American cheese, plain old bacon, fries and a Coke, hangover cure. And just like that, I feel better. And I feel that I've just somehow worked my way into your bacon, egg, and cheese episode. So I'll see you guys next episode. Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Richmond, still talking about food.
Huh. Bacon, egg, and cheese. Maybe someone should look into that. Did you enjoy this episode of Food Groups? We certainly hope so. It was our season 2 finale. Hey, do us a few favors. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel right there. Watch this video right here. And of course, like and comment below. We'll be back before you know it.